Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin. Delighted to have your company. If you are part of the football family, don't forget to like, share the programme and follow us on Facebook. And you can hit the subscribe button on YouTube right now and you'll get those notifications and the alerts on when we are on live for the show. And of course, live across all the events, press conferences, you name it, in Scotland and beyond. So, Ruffy's there, Charlie Adam in place, and Tam McManus as well. Great to have you guys with us. The big news, of course, international football dominates our thoughts. But, of course, the big news that came out in the last couple of hours is Roughie is back on the Partick Thistle board. He's been like a yo-yo. He's off it, he's on it. When he was on it, Gary Caldwell couldn't win a match. Thistle went down, and now he's back on the board again, which is grim news for Ian McCall, who will undoubtedly, Ruffy, be getting ready for life in League Two, because you are a jinx.
Well, no, I really hope that's not the case. I hope it's more positive that we're going up the way. I don't think we want to get down any further, but no, Ian McCall's all ready for the year to start, and I'm sure he's very positive. And I'm just happy to be back. I didn't want to leave the last time. It was a choice to leave because of that consortium went in and wiped everybody out. So, no, it's good that most of the people are back again and it's going in the right direction, hopefully.
Peter, he must be getting a few quid.
Oh,
look, this is for the love. This is for the love of the club.
He does it for the love of the game.
Yeah,
exactly, Charlie. Can I just say to you right now, there are two people on the four boxes here who could retire right now and they would be comfortable for the rest of their life. And then there's Tam McManus and me. So, Ruffy, let me tell you, you're on that board. You'll get the jacket again. It's all there, Charlie.
It's great. It's great to see him back. It's good for you. It's good for you as well to get into something you look forward to then, do you know what I mean? And get into a routine again, especially at a club like Partick Thistle. It's got a great history in it.
Yeah, another good thing, Charlie, which you won't be aware of, is when he was actually on the board, he started to be more authoritative in what he was saying. You know, there was a real depth to his voice and he became more serious, Tam. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I did remember that.
He became more serious, and then all of a sudden he was giving us the inside track as if he was, you know, David Dimbleby reading the news. So get ready for that, Charlie. As soon as you come out with an opinion, Ruffy will be in there with a quick slap.
He'll slap you down.
I'm looking for us. I'm looking forward for us four sitting around that big table at Firhill in the big boardroom. Getting fed red wine and some champagne. Be beautiful.
Well, Charlie, there's more chance of you having a middle parting by mid-December. Let me tell you.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Ruffy going,
No, you're right. You know, unfortunately, we had a board meeting the other night, and some of the COVID stuff that was coming out. And a serious point is, as you keep telling everybody, Peter, we're miles away. We're miles away from fans getting into grounds in large numbers. It is. I mean, Jerry Britton was telling me all the COVID stuff and what he's got to get through and what the club's got to get through, and it's absolutely frightening. If you see it in the papers, it's frightening.
No surprise. I did tell you it's going to be a long time before we get any great number of fans in. Hi to Tam McMonigal, John Aird as well, and quite a few people saying they're in London and it's raining down there, miserable weather. Welcome to our world in Scotland most of the time. Jason Dixon says, afternoon guys, I hate this international break. The amount of people who don't like it, I think we'd really like it if indeed it was, a winning side and we're getting ready
for Spanish.
Something like that. Just if we were winning, we'd be right into it. Listening in from the Great Barrier Reef, says William Webb. William, thank you for joining us. And Stuart Massey says, congratulations, Roughie. And Joe Boyle is probably the only one that I'm going to read out that I really don't want to read out. He's having a beer in 32-degree heat in Malta. I wish we were there with him. Hi to Tommy Ferry, Stephen Martin, Aileen Feeks, all of them. International football will dominate it. You can give us your thoughts on it. The Ollie McBurnie situation, boy, Roughie, yesterday, we absolutely slaughtered them for playing in that match for Sheffield United. It opened up a can of worms. And I did say I would apologise if indeed, this was a situation where suddenly news would come out that it changed the situation, that he couldn't play international football, but he could play for Sheffield United. Well, I don't think I need to apologise to the lad. I think I need to condemn, the PR for Scotland and the manager for not clearing this whole issue up and leaving him wide open to all of us. I mean, we gave him a battering yesterday, Roughie, but suddenly Steve Clarke comes out with the line, and this is the statement from him on Ollie McBurnie. I spoke to Chris Wilder, and he told me Ollie hadn't been training because he had a laceration in his foot that had become infected and that he wouldn't be fit enough to play at international level. People have to remember there's a world of difference between getting some minutes in a pre-season friendly and preparing for an international double-header. After discussions with the medical team and sports science team, it made sense for everyone for Ollie to stay at Sheffield and work on his fitness. Well, Steve, if you'd been more open on that, nobody would have been in the dark and nobody, Roughie, would have been jumping in on the boy's head playing for Sheffield United in a friendly yesterday.
Yeah, in all fairness, yesterday, Peter, I think we all had our opinion on it from the outside looking in, but I think we all did cover ourselves and say, right, let's wait and see, more evidence comes out here. On the face of it, it didn't look good for the player. But my main aim would be, why was he in the squad? Why was he in the squad in the first place? Surely somebody must have communicated by the situation that he was in, that he hadn't trained and he hadn't played. So he shouldn't have been in the squad in the first place. So that's a massive mistake for anybody who really, when you come to name a squad, and all of a sudden the circumstances are there for everybody to see. If that was the case, he should never have been named in it. Somebody else should have been named in it, and he should have been left out until the next one.
Yeah, Charlie, again, we live in a world where everybody tries to suppress information, but that's not exactly rocket science. The reason I feel sorry for the boy is he is one of those players who's trying his hardest to change the perception at the moment among the Tartan Army and many of us who look at him on a daily basis as a footballer. Is he worthy of a place in the Scotland lineup? So he's battling already against trying to change perception and be worthy of playing for Scotland, being a regular. He's doing that, so this just added to it in my mind.
This added fuel to the fire a little bit, but for me, I think the number 9 positions between him and Leigh Griffiths. The only thing about Ollie is how he looks on the pitch. The socks at the ankle. He doesn't look the most. He doesn't. Most cumbersome player. I like him. I think he's a great player. I think he's. If we don't have Griffiths, I think he's the next best option. But obviously, he's not trained since Sheffield United have come back from pre-season. Obviously, as the lad, I know him as a person as well. He'll be thinking that he probably could have played, and then realise, thinking, do you know what, fitness-wise, I'm miles off it, especially at international level and the games that they're going to play. And they felt that he could never take the risk. The issue that you said before is the PR from the SFA, that they should have nailed it, straight away and said, listen, he's not fit because of this, and they let it rumble on. And like you say, in the media, we all speculate, and then all of a sudden the whole story gets blown out. He comes out, he was only meant to play 10 minutes in that game the other day, and he ended up playing 45 minutes. So it is the world that we live in, and we need to try and clamp it down as quick as we can.
Yeah, and this is off the back of Steve Clarke bombing him up, Tam. I mean, he did him no favours.
No, he didn't. I agree with Charlie. It should have been sorted out well before. And I think there's probably a similar situation going on, Peter, with Lawrence Shankland, which has been handled better. Lawrence Shankland obviously has been out injured. He's in the squad as well. And then Mickey Mellon was on our show, actually, I think last week, speaking about it and saying that there's an agreement between him and Stevie Clarke. And, if Lawrence is fit enough to go and train and be involved with the Scotland squad, then he would go. And I just feel the communication was so much better between Dundee United and Shankland and Stevie Clarke than it's been with McBurnie. If McBurnie's not been fit, he's not kicked a ball, Scotland should surely know that. They should have made a phone call before they announced the squad. And the other thing is, Peter, that the English players have been off on holiday. You know, they're not played any games. They're going to be miles behind the Scottish guys in terms of match fitness. So it's been a bit of a mess from start to finish, to be honest.
Do you understand what I'm saying, Roughie? That it's like many a player. Some players, to really perform, need to feel loved. They need an arm around them. They need something that just gets the fans on side and they warm to them. And I get the feeling Ollie McBurnie is not necessarily a fan's favourite at the moment. I think some of them look and think, oh, you know, he's 20 million, but is he worth 20 million? Is he really Scotland class? Whereas if somebody could have just basically said, look, he's got the desire 100%, but listen, as Charlie said, he's miles off it. And he's got a little cut on his foot, and he's definitely not anywhere near being able to contribute to the international scene. So we'll let him go back to play and train with Sheffield United. Do you understand what I'm saying on this?
Yeah, but as the guys are saying there, that at international level, you've got to be as thorough as any. And if you're going to name somebody in a squad, you've got to know that they're practically 100% fit and they are fit enough to play. That's a failing somewhere when you. I mean, we hear the Scotland managers on the phone to Kieran Tierney, he's on the phone to Robertson, he's on the phone to everybody. Surely when he was naming the squad, he must have, as Tam just said there, the English teams haven't been played. So surely would somebody, I don't mean Stevie Clark, I mean somebody should have phoned up and said, look, I see you haven't been playing. Is there a problem? And he'd say, yeah, well, this and this is that. And then, oh, well, we won't announce you. But I think the fact is we all threw our tuppence one yesterday. We had the other circumstances as well. Unfortunately, he said something. I can't remember exactly what it was. He said something about Scottish football as he left the park to somebody.
He didn't want to be involved in the Scotland squad or something.
Yeah, it was blown out.
It was in a tunnel. Yep.
So that gets, because of what happened the other day, the Scottish supporters will flag that one up as well, and they'll come to some kind of conclusion, as we've just spoken about there, that it's got nothing to do with it. You know, that the circumstances are he's no here is because he's no fit. You know, but that's what like fans are. And it's unfortunate because, as you said, if he wants to play for Scotland, I'm sure he will score goals eventually in a Scotland jersey. Scotland fans are like that. They remember wee things like that. So it's been cleared up now. Well, I think it's been cleared up. So let's hope we can move on and just concentrate on the game itself.
I do, and I hope that they remember that this lad scored over 20 goals in the Championship 2 years ago. You know, for Swansea, he scored a lot of goals to get his move to Sheffield United. You know, the lad needs an opportunity. There is a step up from the Championship to the Premier League. He's had one season in the Premier League, and he's coming back into the Scotland squad. So I think he's a good outlet for Scotland. He's one that will want to run in behind. You know, we used to players want to come to feet all the time. Griffiths doesn't want to run in behind. He wants everything to feet. And now we've got somebody that actually wants to run in behind. So I think he's a great option for Scotland.
Yeah, goals. If he scores goals, if we win matches, everything's great, everything's rosy in the garden. It's just getting him the opportunity to run in behind Charlie that seems to have been our problem over the last few games. Anyway, on that, I think Hugh Scott said, and he agreed with you, Roughie, surely he shouldn't have been involved in the first place. And I think that's the general consensus. And Nicky Twigg says rightly, Peter, you have to remember fans are so fickle at times. Absolutely. I mean, I can remember, I don't know if you remember this, Charlie. I remember they booed Gary McAllister onto the park at Celtic Park. Gary McAllister, I mean, he was just a fantastic player. You don't boo him onto a park after his contribution to Scotland.
No, but listen, supporters have their opinions, and we're all in the love of the game. Listen, Tam's had it one week he's a hero, the next minute he could be a villain, and then I've had it in my career. You know, that's the way football is. Supporters, they pay the money, they have an opinion. It's just how when you do get that time, how you react to it, and the best way is by, scoring goals or playing well, and they don't have that reason to boo you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean to boo you when you come on at St Mirren, Charlie. It was an automatic reaction as soon as I saw you warming up.
That's all right.
Anyway, no apologies. He was playing with St Mirren, by the way, Tam. Calm your jets. Anyway, as far as the team that we do have and the players that are apparently fit for this double header, David Marshall, whether he plays in goal or not, we'll find out very shortly. But he reckons we've got a really good, strong squad.
I think it's a really strong squad. I said this last year when I was asked the same question. We've got a lot of Premier League players playing at a high level, really, really important in their teams down south. A lot of players at Celtic, obviously Ryan's at Rangers as well, playing at a high level. And there's a couple of lads who have been promoted now into the Premier League. So I think the higher the level they're playing at is better for us. I think it's a good mix of older players and there's a real good young players coming through as well. So I think the future is bright. And I think with everybody being fit now, we should really be looking to kick on.
Charlie, that's a good place we're in at the moment because, as he highlights there, you've got players, more and more players from Scotland playing in England. And obviously, the higher the level, the better chance we have when they come to international level of getting us to that major championships.
Absolutely, and that's when I was around the squad. We had that level of player in the Premier League, Fletcher at Man United, and things like that. So we've had that, and it's good to see the players getting back to that level. Cooper going in at Leeds and getting promoted is good. So it is beneficial for the national team that the players are playing at the best level possible. The ones who play at Rangers and Celtic are playing at a level every week because of the demands they do, and so it's only going to make the squad better, and hopefully we get that little bit of luck and we can qualify for a major tournament.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that. And I'm just looking there, of course, at some of the players that we have. We've been talking about, obviously, Ollie McBurnie out there now. Lyndon Dykes looks as if he's a Stonewall certainty to start. But the midfield is where David Marshall believes there could be a really good supporting cast.
I think we've got goals in the team, definitely. We've got creativity. I think Ryan Christie brings that a lot. James Forrest, Callum, and obviously John McGinn had a great goal scoring record just before the shutdown for the international team. So I don't think that will be an issue.
Yeah, Tam, are you heartened by what we've got coming through, what we've got available as we're moving forward? I always think Steve Clarke was just hoping over this year that 2 or 3 other players would emerge. I was hoping Billy Gilmour would be really at the forefront of his thoughts, but that kind of was scuppered with the injury.
Yeah, Peter, our midfield is exceptional. There's guys going to not be playing. I've got McTominay down south, John McGinn. They've got Ryan Fraser, Forrest. The guys at Celtic. McGregor. And I looked at the Scotland under-21 squad yesterday, and a lot of good boys coming through in under-21s as well. Ross McCrory, who's been excellent for Aberdeen. Lewis Ferguson, Billy Gilmour, you just mentioned. So listen, we've got real quality coming through, I think. And it's just fitting them all into the one team. I think the younger ones will go and push your McGinns and your McGregors coming through for the 21s, and it all goes well. The only thing we need to find really is a striker and a centre half. Because I think the rest of our teams, the rest of our team.
I think we're desperately need the right back.
A right back as well.
Yeah. I can listen. I've spoken to Steve Clarke about this, Roughie, and he basically said, obviously I think he's going to play Tierney left centre half. Whether it's a 3, whether it's a 4, he'll play him left centre half, Robertson in the left back position. He has said to me, listen, no harm to Stephen O'Donnell, who's absolutely put himself out there for Scotland. He said, but I've been looking in League One as well, in England, in League Two, looking everywhere for a right back, to have the options, to have the cover, looking for centre halves. This was, Roughie, you'll remember, England against Scotland, you and I walking down the tunnel, chatting to Gordon Strachan after a 3-0 defeat. And he said, central defenders who can't defend. That's our problem. We just cannot find that link and that consistency and that never say die attitude of defend in that central area. And boy, do we give goals away there.
Yeah, I think if you look at all good teams, particularly in the centre-half area, it's generally a partnership. It's a partnership that play together for maybe 2 years, 3 years. They know each other inside out, and that's where you get the success. I mean, we've saw it down the line with Scotland, with Big Alec and Willie Miller, who play together. And when you've got a settled back 4, it makes it a lot easier. Or a settled back 3, everybody knows what they're doing. But I know we've not got a right back, but I wouldn't like to think not having a right back would make a successful against Israel. I think we should be strong enough in other positions, and I think we should be on the front foot rather than the back foot, and that's where we should win the game. I would like to see us playing two strikers, but I think we've got two strikers. It'd have to be somebody off the big boy Dykes. But as the guys were saying there's enough players in midfield, particularly McGinn, who in an international jersey is now beginning to look the part, and he's getting forward. He's wanting to score goals. And as the guys have said, we've got guys in there, Christie's, the McGregors, Forrest on one side. They're all goal scorers, so for me that's a positive thing. But they really need to go and turn it on. But I'm just saying it again. I think no crowd in that stadium goes against us. I think it gives Israel a free hit. There's no pressure on them. There's nobody breathing down their neck. They're not having to respond. So I think it's up to us to sort of just respond to the game and lift our game and just do it as if there is 50,000 supporters in there, because it'll be a hard shift. It'll be an eerie night, in that stadium.
Yeah, Will Hastings says why bring... No, this is the thing about it, Charlie. Will Hastings says why take two strikers out and bring Callum Patterson in. Do you like Callum Patterson, Charlie? Can he offer a threat up there?
No.
Right, okay. And that's... wait. That's... Hold on a second. I'm just emailing Charlie Patterson's dad, who emailed in on that point there. So no,
he could call me if he wants, no problem. I just don't. I don't think he's at the international level to play up front. He might be one that might play at right back.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's. I've seen him a few times, and I just don't think he's at the level for the international as a striker. He might play right back because he's done okay now and then. He's quite dynamic to go forward, but I don't see him being one of the main strikers.
Yeah, it's a good opinion because he did play right back at times for Hearts. He did play further forward at times. He's a midfielder who's played up front for Cardiff as well, Tam. But it just gives you an indication of how much we're clutching at straws.
Yeah, we're scraping the barrel. We're looking for anywhere for strikers. Utility strikers, guys, centre halves, or right backs that can play up front. And that's the level we're at just now. We need Lee Griffiths back fit. We need Shanklin back. Forget everybody fit. We've got not a bad selection to pick from up front, but we're down to the bare bones just now. And you're probably looking at I would play Lyndon Dykes with probably Christie just off him, or Forrest just off him. Feeding off him and looking for the knockdowns and that, because that's all we've got, Peter.
Yeah, isn't it amazing actually, Charlie, that when we were talking about getting a central defensive partnership of note, Roughie quoted Miller and McLeish from the 80s. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I liked. I thought Richard Gough was a great centre half. I liked him in there. I thought he was commanding. I mean, even now, I had a laugh with your old boss, Roughie, Gary Caldwell, and Steve McManus, and think to myself, God, we used to slaughter Steve McManus and Gary Caldwell as a central defensive partnership, but you would take them right now.
But the thing about Big Mick is, at least Big Mick would go and put his head in the ball. You know what I mean? And at the moment, we don't have anybody that's demanding enough to go and stick their head on it. We're going to go and talk about Shane Duffy later. He's one that will just go and stick his head on everything that's in front of him, and it's part of even its international level. You need somebody that wants to defend it. And at the moment, we've got nobody at the moment. Everybody wants to play nice out for the back and all that. We need to find that proper defender again. Yeah,
absolutely. If we start playing it out from the back, we're in big trouble, let me tell you. I hope he doesn't adopt that attitude. I've seen that many, nightmares with people trying to play the ball out from the back. In fact, we don't even need to go down through the levels. I think I've watched a number of clubs in the Champions League in that 2020 play the ball out from the back and then suddenly get pressed inside their own box, and then catastrophe befalls the whole side. Give us your thoughts on some of the players that you think should be playing, some of the stars that you think will emerge for us, hopefully at the critical time when we can get through that playoff and get ourselves to a major championships, because I think it's only fair to say, Roughie, it will come in 2021, and we've obviously got to be ruthless in who we take in the mystery machine. We get out there in the PLZ Soccer mystery machine and follow Scotland across Euro 2021. Do we take Charlie as because in the van, would Charlie be great, telling jokes, having a good laugh? Would he be a good team player, Roughie? Or do we take Rent a Freebie? McManus there, you know?
No, I'm sure the team would be fantastic. You know, I know.
I'm there no matter what.
I know Tam's still smarting for being dumped for the Man City Real Madrid game, but he has to get over that, you know, and just move on. You know, that was just one of the things.
I'll be Lord Man again.
No, you won't, chat. No. All I'm saying to you, Tam, the only thing that goes against you is when Roughie and I were down in Blackpool, Charlie was absolutely top drawer. The food was great. The chat was great. You know, it was just magic. You know, and when Roughie, me, and Charlie managed to get all three of us on the Big Dipper and the big one, that was it. You know, we're out there at the promenade. We're on the waltzers. It was magic. So you're under a lot of pressure. And lots of people giving us their thoughts on Israel, saying they won't be a pushover. They've got a number of good players that will cause us problems. I know Darren Fields, who knows Israel well, has mentioned a number of players that could cause us problems, Charlie. So it is two friendlies where we hope. I always think if you get two friendlies where one player suddenly gives you the answer to another problem, that's when you know the friendlies have been worthwhile.
Yeah, you just hope that somebody like a Lyndon Dykes who's got a good move, and hoping that that if he can come and he can handle this level, then it's a well worth exercise. But it's now about getting consistency in the group. The more regular the players get together, the better they are. The more comfortable they'll be with each other, and we'll get better results. And hopefully, that can start now.
Yeah, okay, there's a double header. There'll be predictions coming from the guys, certainly on Friday, and of course we'll get predictions on the Monday as well for the Czech Republic. But from international football, you can give us your thoughts on that. From international football, what about one of the signings that everyone is talking about in Scotland? Shane Duffy has arrived. Just who is Shane Duffy? Our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi has a look.
Irish international Shane Duffy has joined Celtic from Brighton on a year-long loan, so let's have a look at his career and see what he will bring to Glasgow. Duffy moved from Derry in Northern Ireland to Everton as a teenager before making his name at Blackburn and eventually earning a move to Premier League side Brighton. He played 130 times for the South Coast club, forming a solid partnership with Lewis Dunk at the back and keeping their side in the league for 3 years on the bounce. The 28-year-old has been capped 33 times by the Republic, scoring 3 times, and has been a mainstay since starring at Euro 2016. At 6'4", Duffy excels in the air and is a throwback centre-half who puts defending first. In terms of the Celtic lineup, his arrival eases the pressure on Christopher Ajer and Christopher Jullien to produce every week, but it'll also put pressure on them to retain their places, whilst also offering the option to switch to a 3 at the back. Since the announcement, Duffy has aimed to replicate the success of fellow Derry man Paddy McCourt and said it is a huge honour and a dream to play for his boyhood club.
Yeah, he's one of those players that, as Charlie mentioned there, you reckon he's exactly what Celtic need, Charlie?
Yeah, I do. I think he's, the other 2 lads, Jullien and Ajer, are nice footballers, but I think this lad will just come and, will show that defence up. Good communicator. He's a good player on the ball. I think people don't give him credit that he's due. He's got, nearly 100 games in the Premier League, and he'd be strong in both boxes. So it's a very good signing for Celtic. I think that when you get an opportunity to go to a club like Celtic and Rangers, it's very hard to turn down.
Yeah, and of course, I was listening to him being interviewed, Tam, and he's giving it. He's bought all the tops. He's loved the club since he was a boy. I've heard all this before, but I think the only thing that I'm looking at this guy and wondering is, the other 2 at times can pad about thinking they're Franco Baresi and Franz Beckenbauer. This guy's got a more no-nonsense approach to it, as Charlie mentioned there.
Yep, he's, we've spoke about it for a couple of weeks, Peter. He's exactly what Celtic need. He'll put his head in where boots are flying. He'll go and attack the ball, and Christopher Jullien and Ajer can sweep up behind him. He'll go and do all the dirty work. He'll be marking tightly in the box, and I just think he's a leader. I think Celtic have been really missing a leader. They've got Scott Brown in there, but they definitely need another leader in the team, and Duffy's a leader. And as Charlie said, both boxes. He's a threat. He scored a few goals for Brighton for set pieces. 6'4", commanding. He's absolutely tailor-made for Scottish football.
Yeah, the other thing about this, Roughie, apart from anything else, here's what he had to say about joining Celtic. I really am delighted to sign this deal with Celtic. It's a huge honour for me to join such a huge institution and a brilliant football club that I've always loved and admired. It'll be a fantastic personal moment for me when I pull on the Celtic jersey. It's just a great feeling. I could not be happier to be part of the club. I can't wait to start working with the manager, the staff and the players when I return from international duty with Ireland. We'll be challenging on a lot of fronts this season, and I'm really excited about getting going as we try and bring the fans more and more success. Okay, he fits the bill, Roughie, because he's saying all the right things. He's got a little bit of history and background, and a love of Celtic. I don't know if you witnessed this, Roughie, but over the last 24 hours across social media, and this is why I love sometimes reacting to rumours, but boy, it went crazy last night on Lewis Ferguson potentially joining Celtic. James McCarthy's name never goes away, Roughie, but you would have thought Lewis Ferguson had signed a deal at about 12:10 last night. Such was the frenzy about him joining Celtic.
Yeah. Well, again, I think he's one for the future. I think we all know that Celtic have got a tremendous abundance of midfield players. He might be in a year or two. I think Derek would want him to be at Aberdeen for a wee while longer. And you're right, you know, Lenny has said there is more players going to come in. Another name that I heard on somebody talking about the other day was the boy McLean, and Charlie would know more about him than me. He seemingly fits the same script as the boy Duffy. And I don't know if he is a loan or whether he's money or whatever, but maybe Charlie could tell us a wee bit more about him. We know he likes a bit of Instagram. Yeah, we know he likes a wee bit of Instagram and a wee bit of wind up. So, yeah, you know,
he's a big
not
Celtic
a bad player
fan.
as well.
Huge Celtic fan. He's a good player. He's an animal. He's one of the fittest lads that I've ever met in my life. He's unbelievable. He's at it every day. He's top professional. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up Celtic. I know it's something that he would dream of, and like you say, Shane Duffy would be a good sign for Celtic. But the Lewis Ferguson one is, you know, Scott Brown will end soon. Well, in the next couple of years, it's just they're trying to find a mould for him when he leaves, because and how such a good job he does for Celtic in a team, and how he ticks the ball over and he keeps them going. So, you know, if you think you can get him in cheap now and try and nurture him and try and understand it, then great opportunity.
Yeah, Tony Holton Sr. says his father would probably faint. He's talking about Lewis Ferguson. But I have to be honest with you. I mean, Gary Adams says Ferguson's a better option than McLean. Some people, Arthur Flynn says Ferguson's not good enough for Celtic. I have to say, Tam, I mentioned this a year ago on the show. I would bite the hand off to get Lewis Ferguson, you know, if I was a manager of a club. Because I think, you know, Derek has been waxing lyrical about McCrory, but Ferguson, for me, has got that wee bit about him. In fact, I mentioned Celtic should sign him, and I mentioned Rangers should sign him. How much it's going to take, I don't know. Aberdeen would stick, you know, their heels in on this one, but I rate him.
I do as well, Peter. I rate him highly. I've seen a lot of him over the last couple of seasons. I think he's played well over 100 games for Aberdeen. He's played in Europe. He's in the Scotland under 21s. Listen, nobody's saying he's going to come in and go straight to the team. But as Charlie said, Scott Brown, you know, he's coming to the end of his career. You know, there's rumours about Cham wanting away. You know, Callum McGregor could maybe fancy a move to England at his age. You know, Leicester City are obviously been linked to him forever under Brendan Rodgers. So that I think there's opportunities for Lewis Ferguson to go into either Celtic or Rangers and get game time, the same as David Turnbull. And to say that Lewis Ferguson's not good enough for Celtic or Rangers, I think it's nonsense. I think he is good enough. I think, but he's only a young boy. He's only 20, 21 years old. So in the future, he could certainly be, you know, a regular in either team.
Yeah, Hugh Scott says, I'd like to see Lewis Ferguson at Rangers one day. Quality player. Yeah, Hugh, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the link with Rangers is there for all to see. Kenny Whitson says Ferguson to Celtic won't happen. His Uncle Barry would never talk to him again. Well, it's not the end of the world if you don't talk to your Uncle Barry. I mean, we know all about that.
Peter's not spoke to him.
Although, Roughie, you're on a wee night out with your best friend tonight, aren't you?
I'm doing my best for a very worthwhile charity tonight, the Dementia UK. Myself, Barry and Tam. just to raise some coffers for the charity. So I don't mind getting out with Barry and Tam.
Yeah.
And you're not hosting it, Peter.
Well, Charlie, there are some times when you just have to take a back seat on this one. But I don't know if you know, Charlie, this is the new team. It's Tam, Barry, and Roughie getting together. I sense a breakaway, Tam. I don't know about you. A Cowan, Rough, and Ferguson. I sense a breakaway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Right. I'm kissing my PLZ, Jack.
Charlie, the last thing we need is, we don't need badge kissers, do we?
We don't. No, we don't. We need honesty and straight as you go. That's all we need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, Charlie, have you ever kissed a badge anywhere when you've scored a goal?
Oh,
I think he's kissed the Rangers badge. I'm sure he has.
No, don't be silly. No, I don't think I have. No, I don't think I have. Maybe tapped it or something like that, but never kissed it.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask you, Charlie, as well. Obviously, we were talking about. You brought up. Was your family all Dundee fans?
I am. Yeah, all Dundee fans. That's my club, and that's the team I supported since I was a youngster.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know. I'm almost certain your dad would have known him well. But if you get a chance, read a book called In Search of Gilzean, which is a great book that was written about Alan Gilzean, the great Dundee player, a journalist who just basically went round, tried to find him. He was a bit of a recluse. He's sadly passed away now, but he was a bit of a recluse, and he just went round and interviewed so many players. Yeah, it's a great book. And he went round and interviewed guys like Martin Chivers, lots of people who played with Alan Gilzean. And it's just a great insight into one of the finest Dundee players, I think, in the history of the club. Is that fair to say, Charlie?
Yeah, he's. You could put him up there with the greats. But there's been, we're fortunate as a Dundee supporter, we've had so many great players over the years, and we had that spell under the Mars and people like that. So hopefully, these days come back and we can get back into the Premier League.
Yeah, Roughie's about to tell you. I know he's going to jump in.
No.
Roughie's about to tell you that. You're going to tell him about the best Dundee player that we ever hung about with.
Would that be hung about with? Would be Bruni? Well, he keeps telling us that anyway.
The best Dundee player Roughie and I ever have had the good fortune to be in his company for a night that I will never ever remember is Georgi Nimzadze, Roughie. What a night we had with him in Georgia.
I think we were lucky to get out of Georgia that night. We're very lucky to get out of that room. We're lucky to get out of that room. I'll never forget that. It's a long story, but I was going to tell a story about Alan Gilzean. I met him with Peter. Don't know if you know this, Charlie, but Peter's on the committee to nominate the SFA Hall of Fame.
I never knew that. Get me on that.
I didn't know it. No, I waited 6 years. I found out he was on it. And then is that how you
get it?
What happens is
it's all pals like this now, isn't it?
No. What happens is you go on the inductee night and all the inductees sit around a table and you have a meal. And I was sitting beside Alan Gilzean and chatting away to him and everything. And then it came to the nominations and it was next to get nominated for the SFA Hall of Fame is Alan. And I stood up and here it was Gilzean. And I had to sit back there.
Well, I know. Charlie, let me tell you, it wasn't an old pals act. He was raging when he found out that I hadn't voted for him in the 6 years on the panel. He gave me absolute pelters. But nevertheless, the great thing is, listen, you never forget nights out, especially with people like, the reason why I remember Georgi Nimzadze is because it's very topical. If you read the news today on a certain Russian political candidate, Roughie and I know exactly what it feels like, because when we were picked up by two guys who can only look and be described as two Russian spies who picked us up in an old car with no windows in it, and we were driving round the streets of Georgia in this car going at 100 miles an hour. And I looked at Roughie and I thought to myself, wow, I am going to die in the middle of Georgia with you in a car wreck.
Was this in Tbilisi?
Yeah, 2 bullets in her head, Charlie. The two of us just lying there. And the other thing about it is, as you know, if the 2 Russian spies who were driving the car had killed both of us, I would have got a sentence at the bottom. He would have got a double-page spread. Scotland legend killed in Russian spy, hijack. And then at the bottom it would have said, and Peter Martin was there too.
To cut that, I mean, I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'll cut it short. We went for a meal, Charlie, and right round the table was all his hangers-on, and they all had guns in their inside pockets. And the boy said, anytime somebody gets up to make a toast, you have to toast to Nimzadze. You have to say, thank you very much for inviting me here. So everybody around the table, all the journalists around the table got up and said, thank you very much, hospitality and everything. And as the drink was flowing, it was coming round to me, and I have to say I was half cut. And everybody was talking him up. Everybody was all around him like a rash, as if he was the king, blinking.
He is the king.
To me, so he comes to me, and somebody had obviously whispered in his ear who I was, and when I stood up and I was half cut, they went, oh yes, you are the goalkeeper. You played 53 times for Scotland. And I said, yeah, that's right. He said, I played for 103 times for my country. And I said to him, how many World Cups have you been to? And that's another gun. That's another gun started coming out. The holsters were coming out. That's the end. That's the end.
Absolutely. The one thing I remember about that, Roughie, is once the 7th person had actually paid tribute to Georgi Nimzadze, and these were shorts, Tam, I was gone. I mean, I am a Toucan Dan man.
You can't drink anyway.
Exactly. By the time the 7th tribute came round, I thought I am going to be dead on the floor if we get to journalist number 12. Just out of curiosity, guys, we're talking about Dundee, but the guy Mark Connolly could be the latest of the players to suffer the wrath of the club for breaking COVID-19 regulations. I hope we don't get these just intermittent situations where players just will not toe the line, Tam.
Yeah, I read about it. He wouldn't wear a mask in the back of a taxi or something like that. I don't really know the insides and outs of it, but if you're a football player in the public eye, you do everything you can. You wear a mask if you get into a shop or get into a taxi or whatever. You don't give people an opportunity to stitch you up or get a story in the newspapers. So, if Mark Connolly's done that with a few drinks in him, he's in the taxi, the mask and all that, it's sheer stupidity. He could be, the taxi driver's taking his health into consideration and himself and the guy he was with. So, no, it's not a great story for Scottish football. It's not great publicity for Dundee United either than the player.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on the point of, I know at times you go and work for Hibs TV, Tam. Jamie Murphy signed. I thought that was a great signing. If Jamie can steer clear of injury, that could be a good one. But what did you make of Daryl Horgan going out? Was that a surprise to you?
It's been in the pipeline, Peter, for a couple of weeks. I think Wickham have been sniffing about him. I think they've been haggling over a fee with Hibs. He was out of contract at the end of the season, and to be honest, he was a regular. He was either starting or coming on every game. So I like Darryl. He's not really been as consistent as I thought he would be. Coming up from pressing, he's been hot and cold, as most wide men are. But I think it'd be a bit of a miss for Hibs. He contributed a few goals. He was good against Livingston early in the season, and Hibs won 4-1. But as you mentioned, Jamie Murphy will come in, Peter, and he's a direct replacement for him. I think Jamie's got more goals in him. Jamie can play in a variety of positions. He can play behind the striker. He can play as a 9, and he can play in the wide areas. He came on against Aberdeen. Don't think he's fit yet. He's not played a lot of football at Rangers, so I think the international break he'll be probably doing a lot of running, a lot of fitness work to get himself back up to speed for when Hibs come back and play St Mirren in the first game back.
Yeah, did you come across him when you were down south, Charlie? Jamie Murphy?
Yeah, he was. He had obviously had the spell at Burton, and he was at Brighton for a bit. I think it's a good sign for Hibs. I think Hibs have made some good signings. Know the league, Gogic and a lad from Dunfermline, Nesbitt, and Wright from St Johnstone. So you could see their way of thinking. They want players that have experience in the league, and I think it's a great signing for them. The only issue will be getting them up to speed, ready to go against St Mirren.
Yeah. Niall Kane says, Tam, would you take Jason Naismith back permanently for Hibs?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think he's back down at Peterborough. He was injured, wasn't he? I think he's got a couple of years left at Peterborough. He done well at Hibs. He picked up a bad injury. I think he done his cruciate, so he's been down there recuperating. I don't know how far he is in his recovery, Peter, to be honest with you, but he done well at Hibs. Hibs supporters liked him, so I think that's probably one that Jack Ross will be maybe looking at when he's back to full fitness.
Yeah, we always like to just speculate on rumours as well, Roughie. Josh Ginali signs for Hearts, and that's a loan deal from Preston North End. But there was rumours that Andy Halliday was out there on a trial at Hearts. Andy's going to have to find a club and announce it soon as well. I think he's a player that really would do well in the Premier League for some team. I mean, I like Andy as a lad. I think he's a great lad. And I think, if anything, the thing that went against him at Rangers was too much of a utility player. He would have played in goal just to play for Rangers.
Yeah, if he's at Hearts, I think Hearts is an ideal club for him to go to. I really do think they'll be back in the Premiership next year, so it'll be something they can work on. I think him being a versatile player.
Come on, give us a bit of respect.
No, but I don't know have you signed for them yet?
Not yet.
Did you see I said them there? No, I do think I think him being versatile is a good one. I think he's going to a club like that, or whatever club he goes to, being a versatile player is something that clubs are now looking at, because they obviously think they're getting more than one player.
Yeah, that's good sometimes. But sometimes, Charlie, if you're a utility player or a versatile player at Celtic and Rangers, it doesn't go down well, unless you're suddenly a versatile player like Chris Sutton. Chris Sutton can play central midfield, centre half, and centre forward. But there are some players that it can work against them.
Yeah, it could work against you. Like you say, the biggest thing for the problems that these lads, or myself, is it's the expectation of what you actually think you can get and where you're going to go when you leave the old firm. Sometimes you're trying to hold out for something better, or maybe a little bit more money. In this day and age, if you're getting offered the contract and it's an opportunity to get playing regular, I think you've just got to take it. And if you can get a club like Hearts, who, let's say, will be favourites for the Championship next season. They signed a couple of good players and good experience in Craig Gordon. If there is definitely an opportunity for him to sign there, I think it would be a good signing for them.
Yeah. Peter, have you advised Charlie? I mean, I'm not saying he is negotiating with Dundee, but have you advised him to make sure he checks all these inboxes and that, and if there's any email stuff going about?
Well, to be fair, we'll know when Charlie signs for Dundee, because we've got it in our WhatsApp group. We've managed to get into that same WhatsApp group that everybody else shared, including yourself, Roughie, when you were involved in the skullduggery in the summer that we haven't forgotten about. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Charlie, you said you've got options. Is that one is it closer than the last time we asked you?
No, it's in discussions at the moment. Like I say, the club won't put themselves in a financial position where it's going to struggle. We're both in a position where we're talking, and they're trying to be creative to try and get a deal done. And it's we'll see where it progresses, and it's open. Everybody knows about it, and we'll take it each day as it comes.
Yeah,
I hope it does sign, Peter.
Why?
An ex-Dundee player, myself, we saw spot for Dundee supporters. They've been in that division for too long, and Charlie will be a huge signing for Dundee, so fingers crossed he can lower his wage right down and sign for the D.
I think it would be a great signing as well.
Tell you what, if I sign there, I'm absolutely gutted that the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing's finished at half price, because with 3 years would have been it. But we'll definitely not be going for stakes in that now.
Absolutely, Dundee would be a good night out, to be honest with you. I think it'd be a great move as well. But listen, I'm sure if it doesn't come to pass, there'll be other Scottish clubs that will be sniffing around. Charlie, you've got a lot to offer. That's for sure. We always talk about footballers who put themselves out there. Now, I'll clarify this by saying there are thousands upon thousands of great footballers at every level who put themselves out there for charity, for things that they don't want any recognition for. We only have to look to some of the stuff that Stevie Naismith has got involved with when he was at Everton. Lots of players do things, including our panellists here today, that they don't want recognition for. They do it for charity. They do it for somebody to do a turn for them. But I have to say, Charlie, Marcus Rashford, for me, it just fills you with this just tremendous feeling of, I don't know, it just makes you want to try and be a better person yourself, because that lad has really put himself in the front line of trying to end this child food poverty.
He's incredible for at his age. The PR people he has around him to get him to a level where he is has been phenomenal, and to be able to stand up and fight for what he believes. He's been through that as a young kid himself in the streets of Manchester. He understands it. His mum had to feed his brothers and sisters, struggling, and he's got a platform where he can go and sound out and show what he can do. And fair play to him. He deserves everything he gets, and I hope the hard work keeps continuing.
Yeah, you're talking, Tam, about a 22-year-old boy, and I don't think he actually set out on that road by, saying, I'm going to be unbelievably high profile about this. He didn't want it to be about himself. He just wanted to say, look, if you think there's an embarrassment attached to this, or an injustice or whatever, I've been through it. I think he was trying to show people that he'd shared the same thing with his own family. But for him to really push the boat out there, I just thought it was fantastic. I mean, if ever a boy deserves credit, it's Marcus Rashford, and he's still able to go and score great goals for Manchester United.
Yeah, he's so humble. The way he's went through everything. He's put a lot of politicians to shame, to be honest with you. There's children out there who are starving, and the government are not doing anything to help them, and it's taking a young boy to Man United. And you know what? The government had a pop at the football players at the very start of lockdown. And saying that we're maybe earning too much money and different things, he should be doing more. And he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's really, really helped a lot of people, Marcus Rashford. And I agree with you. I get a wee warm feeling when I hear some of the stuff he's doing. He's tremendous, and you don't need to do it as a guy like that. You can go on with your life and just say you're going to do things, but he's actually doing them, and that's the difference. And fair play to him. I take my hat off to him. A fantastic young guy.
I mean, never mind getting the government, Roughie, to get in a U-turn. He also raised over 20 million before he got them to U-turn the policy, Roughie. And then over and above that, he's now fighting the fight to try and continue this support, this safety net for families up and down the country. I mean, there was one woman, I think she was just in tears standing next to him, just in awe of what he's achieved so far that would change her life and her family's life and her boy or her girl.
Yeah, it's fantastic. As the guys are saying, he's come from a community, who have thrived on people giving handouts when he was young, and he's not forgot that. And I think we have to realise that most of us all came from working class backgrounds. We weren't lucky enough to be very wealthy, and we know how our mums and dads had to do to bring us up. And it's great that somebody like that hasn't forgotten where he's come from. But I think you would find there'll be a lot of players out there like that. I know a lot of the African players support, the countries that they came from very quietly because of the poverty in certain areas over there. And I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of things happening where we don't know about, and these wealthy guys are just remembering where they came from.
Yeah, Stevie Tops says exactly the same. Good on this guy. So I think there's lots of people very, very positive about him. And although sometimes on the programme we can obviously deliver things unconsciously that are inaccurate, and we don't mean to do that, which is basically when Roughie said there, Tam, that we all come from working class backgrounds. Knightswood is not working class, Tam. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean,
is that what Roughie's for?
Roughie can't sit down. Roughie can't sit down there because he's got a silver spoon. You know,
I am a Mary Hill boy. I'm a Mary Hill boy who was decanted to the country at Knightswood.
What were you a war child? Yeah. Were you there taking on a train to Knightswood?
I remember my family had the opportunity to move to a better environment, and they stuck us in a multi-story flat in Knightswood. So, but yes. It had grass outside, so that was a positive move.
Okay, Roughie, we'll take your word for it. And of course, no need to ask Tam, no need to ask Charlie about Dundee and your upbringing up there, Charlie. It was just tough times. I know in our area, Tam and I in Lanarkshire, we used to raise a lot of money for where you lived.
We did.
Yeah, Charlie. Listen, it was a tough upbringing, but as times have gone on, it's the whole city of Dundee's changed, and it's getting better.
Yeah.
But it's it takes things like this for people to realise that we need more important things that to be looking at, and hopefully everything can get sorted. But listen, it's where you are, and that's what you do. You can never forget where you brought up, and would never change it for the world.
Yeah, well, that fairly killed the laughs. Thanks for that, Chaz.
Would you be excited about living in Dundee?
Yeah, listen, Dundee was a right good night out. Fat Sam's was a good night out, Charlie.
It still is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Roughie away and a half again. But nevertheless, yeah, now you've got the V&A. The whole place has gone up market, Charlie. It's changed since your early days.
Yeah, no, everything's gone. The new train station's been built, and the V&A, and we're going up in the world.
Dundee's lovely now.
Oh, absolutely. And Channel 4 got that as well.
Yep.
Just getting internet. If I do go up there, my internet might be a bit dodgy in the next few weeks. So I'll send you the bill.
Listen, Charlie, if it's dodgy, we're sending up an outside broadcast truck. Believe me. Anyway, listen, talking about somebody who did have, a rough upbringing, but the belief that Barcelona showed in Lionel Messi, it's an ongoing one. But hey, Charlie, some of the English newspapers are giving it Messi deal 632 million. Man City are willing to shell that sort of money out to get him in the sky blue top.
Yeah, I was hearing today. One of my mates sent me the text of what he would be earning. 16 grand a minute or something like that. And I think it's a 3-year deal going to Man City, then a 2-year deal going over to America to play for the team over there. So it's a huge investment. But listen, you're going to get you get the greatest player ever that I've seen, and it's played the game. So it's well worth it.
Oh, it'd be absolutely fantastic. The only little bit of this story that's to unfold to get resolved, Tam, is how they engineer him out of Barcelona for free, even if that. I mean, I hear Suarez moving ever closer to a move to Juventus. Suddenly, that whole side is being dismantled. I don't envy Ronald Koeman trying to rebuild it, because there are no superstars that you can think of that will emerge now.
Ronald Koeman could be short-lived manager at Barcelona, to be honest with you. The players that's going out the door, Suarez and Messi, obviously two mainstays in their team, but I think they need to revamp. They need Bayern Munich tore them apart, and they need fresh legs, and they need legs. Full stop. I just think they're no. The game's changed for the tiki-taka. You've got to be powerful. You've got to be athletic. You've got to be able to play. You've got to be able to play as well. You need all three. So the game's changing, and I think Barcelona needs to move with the times and bring in more guys with more energy in the middle of the park.
Yeah, Logan Duff says Ronnie Dyla is the manager of the New York team that Messi would be going to.
That's right.
So
it might not be for long. I think they're struggling.
Yeah, there goes the training.
That concept of a player playing in England and then going over to America is not the first thing that happened, because Tam did that so many years ago with Hibs. Yeah, Tam did
absolutely.
That. Played here and then went over to America, so it's not new.
Yeah,
new thing.
No, ripped it up, didn't he?
Charlie, he ripped
paved
it
the
up.
way for Messi.
Yeah, £16,000 a minute, you reckon, Charlie? But is he happy?
Yeah,
you betcha.
The best one. Did you see Sky report earlier today? They said that his old man's in Barcelona at the moment, and he even told him what he had for his lunch on Sky. That's how crazy it's getting. Do you know what I mean? The dad's flown in from Argentina, telling him that he's had a bowl of pasta not before this big meeting. I just think it's going to be crazy. But the more that we talk about it and we see it, it could happen. And it is. It's going to be incredible if he does come to City.
It would be magnificent. I still probably wouldn't, and you'll be amazed at this, Tam. I probably wouldn't get a Man City top, though. The Messi thing, we've had lots of people saying shirt sales alone. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
it'd be phenomenal for City. But
you'll get one for your man cave, the Man City Messi top.
You think so?
You will.
I'm not
Certainty.
sure.
Aye,
Man
100%.
City.
You will.
No.
Somebody will give you a freebie.
If his name's on it, you'll be having it.
I know. You think so?
Loves him.
If his name's on the jersey.
What happens if he does come to? What happens if he comes to City and he says to Aguero, "Listen, I want 10." What do you think Aguero's going to say to him?
Take it.
Yeah, here you are. Here you go. I'm in my last year. Here, you have it. I mean, I know Aguero started training again. I saw him starting his training again. Aguero for me has been. Here's a contentious one. Aguero for me has been the top one or two strikers in English football for the last decade. For me,
couldn't disagree with you. Could not disagree with you. I think he's phenomenal.
I'm trying to work out, Charlie, if he's one or two. For me, he's number one, because I love his movement. I love the way he can hold it in, beat a player, score goals. Is there somebody better?
In the last 10 years, I don't think so. Everybody's different. You obviously had Drogba's and people like that.
Last 20, I would go Thierry Henry.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about the last 20, Tam. Get your own programme.
These two will be talking that tonight with Fergie. It's all right. Don't worry about 20 years. We're all talking.
Well, exactly. Charlie, you're absolutely right. Oh no, you're good, Barry. Oh no, Tam Cowan, you're really funny. Oh, Roughie, tell us your World Cup stories. I know what it's going to be like. He's going out for a meal after it, Roughie.
Well, that might be a plan. You never know.
That's shocking.
I might have to
absolutely
entertain somebody who's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Enjoy yourself, by the way. I'll probably go home and watch a movie like Gladiator, because you play the role of Joaquin Phoenix. You're Joaquin Phoenix, Roughie. Just as he's standing there ready to go into the. There he is. That's it. Stayed in there.
Have we got in this Tottenham thing yet? Have you started watching the Tottenham thing on Amazon?
Oh, is it on?
I'm going to watch it tonight. The first three.
Yeah, I smashed the three of them the other day. Humble, brilliant. I feel sorry for Pochettino.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for him.
Yeah. Do you like Mourinho?
He gets a 15-minute. No, I like Mourinho. I think Pochettino's brilliant. I like Mourinho. But just for what he achieved at that club, he got a 15-minute cameo, and then everything else is about Mourinho. It's what he achieved at that club was phenomenal. But yeah, it's worth a watch.
Yep, I'm going to binge on that tonight, because obviously we've got nothing to do. Tam, we're not out at any.
Yeah, I might watch it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll text you on our only WhatsApp group, me, you, and Charlie. Since Duffy's out there with his new two mates for their new TV show. Listen, on that note, thank you very much to the Honourable Charlie Adam and Tam McManus, and from myself, Peter Martin. By the way, Roughie was on the show too. But from myself, Peter Martin, don't forget to like, share and follow, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Fingers crossed for the next time we speak to Charlie, there'll be a deal done and he'll be back in Scottish football. To you guys,
with a D, a Dundee, come on a D.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.